I knew something was wrong the moment the envelopes landed on the table. They made a soft sound, barely more than a whisper, but it carried a weight I recognized instantly, a warning disguised as generosity. Thin white rectangles, all sealed neatly, stacked with the kind of intention my mother only used when she wanted applause. She smiled as she handed them out, but it wasn't kindness stretching her face. It was performance. She had practiced that smile for years, the one that made her look like a provider even when she never actually provided anything. One envelope slid toward my sister, another toward my brother. A third nudged itself into place beside my father's plate. He didn't even bother to glance at it, too absorbed in stabbing at his food like it had wronged him personally. Mom's hand hovered over the last envelope, the one she should have handed to me. But she pulled it back, intentionally, theatrically, as if she were cutting a ribbon at a ceremony. My sister didn't waste the opportunity. "Guess you don't count," she announced, loud enough to slice through the room and lodge itself right under my ribs. She already wore the smirk, the one that bloomed whenever she thought she had won something. She tore open her envelope with exaggerated joy. Crisp bills spilled out like confetti, each one a tiny banner declaring her victory. I didn't move. I didn't flinch. I took another slow bite of ham, savored it, swallowed, and let a small smile flicker across my face. Because while they celebrated what they thought was generosity, I already knew the truth. Every bill in those envelopes had come from me. Every gift they received was funded by the same bank account they believed magically replenished itself. And tonight would be the last time any of them touched a single cent of it. It hadn't always been like this. There was a time when my mother bragged about me like she had personally built me piece by piece. Her hardworking kid, her pride, her proof of good parenting. I held on to that pride longer than I should have. I didn't realize until much later that it wasn't love, it was leverage. The more I achieved, the more she used me as a weapon to slice into the others. "You should be more like your sibling," she'd say to my brother. "Maybe then you wouldn't struggle. Your sister wouldn't waste money on things like that," she'd say to me, while glaring at her daughter for daring to have hobbies. They resented me in silence. I could feel it every time their eyes flicked toward me, every time the air tightened around the dinner table. Resentment has a smell, like metal and old wounds. I pretended not to notice, convinced myself it was normal family friction. But then the small things started piling up. My father accidentally using my card and shrugging like it was no big deal. My sister borrowing money and somehow forgetting every single time. My brother assuming I'd pay for every dinner, every birthday, every emergency that sprouted out of nowhere. And over all of it, my mother always watching, nodding approvingly, because their dependence meant she didn't have to lift a finger. Still, I stayed calm. I watched. I waited. I let them build their entitlement into something they believed was permanent. But the real fracture, the one that cracked the foundation, came quietly. One night, I walked past my sister's room and heard her on the phone. "He acts like he's better than us," she said, dismissive and sharp. "Mom says he should be grateful we even let him be part of the family." Let him. Let me. As if my existence was an application they'd approved out of pity. Something shifted inside me then. Not brokenness, not rage, just precision. A clean, simple certainty. So I planned. Every bill I paid, every account I managed, every subscription, mortgage, insurance policy, emergency fund, they all lived under my control. I held every login, every password, every authorization. They never questioned why everything always ran smoothly. They never questioned the person who fixed every problem. They never wondered what would happen if the person they depended on stopped being dependable. Christmas was the perfect stage. After dinner, after the envelopes, after their laughter drained into the stale living room air, I stood and stretched. "Long drive," I said. "Early work." No one looked up.
No one asked me to stay.
Why would they? They had already taken what they came for. I drove home through the quiet streets, steady and calm. The kind of calm that comes from knowing the storm will hit, but you won't be standing under it. Revenge isn't loud. Not the real kind. It's quiet, precise, like slipping into a room you already own. I sat down at my desk, logged in, and began the shutdown. Account after account. Access revoked. Cards disabled. Auto payments canceled. Quiet clicks, clean breaks. No explosions. No theatrics. I simply removed myself from the system. And without me, the system collapsed. I slept better that night than I had in years. The next morning unfolded exactly as I expected. First came the voicemails, then the frantic texts, then the calls that stacked on top of each other like dominoes falling. Mom, there must be some mistake. Nothing is going through. Sister, did you change something? My card isn't working. Brother, call me now. Seriously. I waited until noon before replying. Must be tough, I typed. Guess you don't count. The silence that followed wasn't emptiness. It was comprehension. Heavy, unavoidable understanding. Finally, my mother called. Her voice trembled, not with heartbreak, but with fear. The realization that the ground she had stood on for years had been held up by me. You can't just walk away from your family, she said. I didn't walk, I replied. I was pushed. You just never looked long enough to notice. There was a crack in her certainty then.
A pause. A breath.
What do you want? She whispered. I already took it, I said. My freedom. And that was the truth. They don't laugh at me anymore. They don't call unless they need something, and those calls go unanswered. I rebuilt my life on my terms, with my money for my peace. And the world grew quieter. Beautifully, gloriously quieter. People like to say revenge is messy. Maybe for them. But for me, it was simple.
Clean. Precise.
Just giving everyone exactly what they gave me. Nothing.